Dr. Florence Eid Oakden, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good,
Much
good.
better now that the world is sort of looking up with recovery underway in the various economies of the world, and with me having been vaccinated twice, my family doing all right, much better.
So tell me this, as the CEO and Chief Economist of Arabia Monitor Research and Strategy, give me an idea, what does your typical day look like?
A typical day is actually quite interesting these days because of all the optimism that is emerging. And, I have my various companies, one of which is Arabia Monitor. We never have a busy day in the Middle East that isn't punctuated by events that are of interest to the world. It's either the price of oil or some sort of development having to do with Iran and the nuclear deal, or some sort of big investment, that's part of the new Silk Roads. And so there's never a boring moment.
every day is something new. So listen, tell me, kind of in conversations we had previously, it's always fascinated myself and the team about talking about Western economics and the Middle East. Give us a couple of high-level, valuable lessons that you feel the Western economies can actually take from the Middle East around leadership, around how it works, that maybe we should be learning from.
When all is said and done, some of the Middle Eastern economies have undergone fairly ambitious transformations, some less successfully than others and some more slowly than others. But when you think of some of the very young states, like the United Arab Emirates, tiny states that were really just a series of nomadic tribes a couple of generations ago, when you think of what they've built and how seriously they've taken state building and the investments they've made, some better than others, in their own economies and in other parts of the world. And when you think of how they've managed, despite the initial shock last year, to get a hold of oil markets and stabilize the price of oil, independently of what one thinks of OPEC or OPEC plus, there are lessons to be learned there in terms of the teething of some of these new countries and the courage with which they've undertaken reform. Again, not without mistakes and not without criticism, and not without regimes that are often unpalatable to the Western world. However, they are forging ahead. And I think the interesting new twist today is the attempt to reach out to Iran in the region as part of this new nuclear deal being discussed. And the other interesting new twist is the manner in which they're ushering in Chinese investment in the Middle East and North Africa, which is very different from the manner in which Chinese investment was ushered into sub-Saharan Africa.
So there's a lot going on. So kind of and you mentioned it a couple of times, kind of in terms of the oil and what's going on there, and the fact that the price is the highest since 2018, I think. How do you perceive that change, the shifting status of the global powers?
The price of oil has finally hit what I call the magic number for the oil exporters of the region. The economic wheels sort of start to turn properly once the price of oil hits 60 and is sustained above 60, and so we've now gotten there. That allows for petrodollars to be cycled through their systems. It allows them to make the right sorts of investments in order to keep their diversification and job creation efforts on a good footing. I think I'm optimistic for the balance of this year and for next year, because there's no reason for the price of oil to decline again for the moment. And so I think we're looking at a price of oil for 2022 that is good for the Middle East and North Africa, the oil exporters. It's also good for the oil importers in terms of not having an oil import bill that is too high. And it's also good for the rest of the world. The sort of the high 60, 70 range is neither crippling for oil importers nor too low for oil exporters.
Again, you mentioned Iran before and how kind of they're being brought, I suppose, into the fold as much as possible. How do you think it's going to? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, I think that the world is going to continue to work toward a deal with Iran. So, some sort of revival of the JCPOA. Iran wants that, and the Western powers want that. The interesting new twist this time around is that Iran's regional role and its ballistic missile program appear to have become part of the new set of discussions. And that is interesting for multiple reasons. First of all, if successful, this could lead to more stability in the region. And we all know that the initial JCPOA was not at all applauded by the neighbors of Iran. In fact, they were sidelined from all discussions on it. And the fact that Iran funds various militia acolytes across the region, ranging from Syria to Iraq, to Lebanon, to Gaza, to Yemen, is a problem, not just for the region, but for the rest of the world. And so we view that from the perspective of the recent elections in Iran, which have ushered in a more conservative presidency. President Raisi, we had called it right a couple of months ago, won and will be inaugurated in August. We don't think there'll be a deal before that. However, we do think that this conservative presidency is probably as likely to work enthusiastically toward a deal as the previous more liberal administration in Iran, simply because they want to open up the economy and they view the sanctions implications as crippling for industrial production and job creation in Iran. Now, will the world succeed in forging a new deal with Iran that sizes down and controls Iran's ballistic missile program, which worries Israel, and Iran's regional militia funding activities, which worries all the Arab countries around it? It's hard to say. But it is clear that these topics are now on the table in ways that they weren't before, and that is encouraging in and of itself.
My last question, give us kind of some trends or which you think we should be keeping our eyes open for in the region over the forthcoming time as we pass through the pandemic and to whatever comes next.
What we have said is that we've now just witnessed the dawn of the new China century. In the region. A good part of the region, all the way to Saudi Arabia, actually lies in Asia, and North Africa only begins with Egypt. And so the economic weight of the region, meaning the Gulf states, all of these countries, the oil exporters, they lie in Asia, just like China does. So there's a new Asia century unfolding, bringing with it investment from China and bringing with it its own set of complexities. We don't cover China because we are complete enthusiasts of China, and we cover China in the Middle East in a way that is critical. And so we look at the opportunities and we look at the challenges. And what's interesting about this new era is the manner in which Chinese foreign direct investment, for example, will be useful and of interest, partly because of the drying up of Western foreign direct investment in the region, with the region's oil no longer being as crucial as it used to be in the past. So Chinese investment will be helpful and useful to the region's diversification and economic development efforts. However, the question is, how will it be ushered in? Will it be ushered in with less pressure and less leverage than China has had in some of the poorer countries? We think yes, so far. This is what we're observing. It won't be like Chinese investments in Sri Lanka or Chinese investments in sub-Saharan Africa. Will it also invite political influence from China? We think not so far because of the level of maturity of countries in the region. Will it change the geostrategic set of givens in the region? We think probably yes, over time. And so all of these elements are ones we watch day by day as we track these flows investment by investment, and we see a whole new mosaic, a whole new map of the region unfolding, that is going to be fascinating to watch for decades to come.
Thank you so much indeed for your time. And it's such a fascinating area, and truly look forward to finding out more and look forward to catching up soon.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for your time.